Yes, yes, yes. Well, good morning. I'm Randy Lewis, and on behalf of the entire ministry team, we welcome you on this beautiful Sunday morning. And yes, I am flying solo. I'm a solo minister today, but I am not alone. We have Pastor David Smith, we had Matt Edwards, and we have Dimitri Sobel singing today, and our religion exploration director, Shannon Boston. So you're in for a treat today. So welcome, welcome, welcome to The Point where agnostics, atheists, and all kinds of seekers gather in community. No matter where you come from, what you believe, you are welcome here and you are loved. So right now, I invite you to join me in saying our covenant that's printed in your order of service. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. Oh, yes, and I didn't say that. I left a whole big old part out. And welcome to those who've joined us online, watching from all over the world. I hope you said the covenant with us, too. We're so glad you've joined us today. If you're a first-time visitor with us or new to All Souls, I just totally left these guys out. We welcome you as well. And our ushers are here, and we have a special gift for you. So if you would raise your hand as they come down, they'll make sure you get that gift. And I see a few of you there. So again, welcome, welcome, welcome. I invite you, our chalice lighter to come forward. Listen, I'm so glad to see you, beautiful. So the flaming chalice is the Unitarian Universalist tradition, a tradition of which this church is a member. And our chalice is lit today by one of our newest members, Dion Bonner. And Dion is really engaged in our women's programming, and she has participated in the women's retreat and the leadership All Souls retreat. So we welcome Dion. Thank you.
We light this chalice for the freedom to question, the courage to listen, and the love that calls us to care for one another. May this small flame remind us that truth grows brighter when we seek it together.
Good morning. How many of you are familiar with the old fable of the emperor's new clothes? Oh yes, many, but not all. Well, today I get to tell you the story made famous by Hans Christian Andersen, but known for centuries before him. You see, there was once an emperor who did not think much about taking care of his people. Instead, he cared only for his clothes. He was excessively fond of new clothing, changing his garments on the hour, and always looking out for the very latest in fashion trends. Now, hearing of this great emperor who only cared for fashion, two rogues set about to take advantage of the emperor. They arrived at court bragging about their ability to weave the most exquisite designs, the most brilliant colors, the most elaborate patterns. They claimed that their fabric had the added property of remaining invisible to everyone who was unfit for office or who had an extraordinarily simple character. The emperor thought, had I such a suit, I could find out which men in my service are unfit for their office and tell the wise from the foolish. Begin weaving immediately, he commanded. And he gave the weavers large sums of money to begin their work. Now the pretend weavers set up their looms and feigned work They pretended. They asked for the most delicate silk and the purest gold thread, which they promptly tucked into their pockets and their knapsacks, did nothing with it. The emperor wanted a progress report. He sent his top advisor. He will best be able to see how the cloth looks, for he is a man of sense, and no one can be more suitable for his office than he is. The faithful advisor went to the weavers and was stunned. What can be the meaning of this? Thought the old man, opening his eyes very wide. I cannot discover the least bit of thread on the looms, but he did not express his thoughts out loud. Is it possible that I am a simpleton? He thought. I've never thought so myself, and no one must know if I am so. Can it be that I am unfit for my office? That must not be said either. I will never confess that I could not see this stuff. And so he returned to the emperor and explained to him, as the weavers had told him, that the delicate patterns and the vibrant colors being intricately woven into splendid robes for their leader could not be matched. And the emperor sent additional officers to his court to see how the weavers were getting on and to ascertain whether the cloth would soon be ready. And he received the same report from this group of advisors, claiming the cloth which the advisors are preparing is extraordinarily magnificent, so as not to have their character or suitableness questioned. Now, all the people in the city had heard of the wonderful property the cloth was to possess, and all were anxious to see the splendid new robes and to learn how wise or how ignorant their neighbors might prove to be. And now the emperor himself wished to see the costly manufacture while it was still in the loom, and accompanied by a select number of officers to the court. He went to the crafty impostors who, as soon as they were aware of the emperor's approach, went on working more diligently than ever, although they did still not pass a single thread through the looms. Is not the work absolutely magnificent? Said the two officers of the crown. If your majesty will only be pleased to look at it, what a splendid design, what glorious colors. And at the same time, they pointed to the empty frame, for they imagined that everyone else could see the exquisite piece of workmanship. How is this? Said the emperor to himself. I can see nothing. This is indeed a terrible affair. Am I a simpleton? Am I unfit to be an emperor? That would be the worst thing that could happen. Oh, the cloth is charming, he said out loud. It has my complete approval, and he smiled most graciously and looked closely at the empty looms. It is beyond all I could imagine. The weavers sat up all night pretending to create an entire wardrobe for the king. Here are your majesty's trousers, here's the scarf, here's the mantle. The whole suit is light as a cobweb. One might fancy one has nothing on at all. The rogues dressed the emperor in his new clothes and began the chorus of compliments. How splendid you look! How well the garments fit! What a design! What colors! These are indeed royal robes. And as they processed to the parade so that the emperor could show off his new garments to everyone in the kingdom, the emperor walked in the midst of the procession, and all the people standing by at those windows cried out, "Oh, how beautiful are our emperor's new clothes! What a magnificent train, and how beautiful the scarf hangs!" No one would admit that they could not see these much admired clothes, because in doing so, they would have declared themselves either a simpleton or unfit for office. But one of the midst of these voices, Out of that came the voice of a young child. Do we have any of those sitting out there? Sitting on his father's shoulder so that he could see the emperor as he passed, the young child said, "But the emperor has nothing on at all." "Listen to the voice of innocence," claimed his father. And what the child had said was whispered from one to another, "But he has nothing on at all." The emperor was vexed, for he knew that the people were right, but he thought that the procession must go on, and so he continued with great pomp and ceremony, pretending there was nothing amiss. And in this sad little story, the emperor and his court pretended that the emperor was clad in the finest garments while everyone knew he was completely naked, parading down the street and refusing to acknowledge his reality for fear of being seen as simple or unfit for office. What happens when we let our internal compass be swayed by outside forces? When we surround ourselves by similarly thinking people rather than a diversity of opinions? Listening to others is an important part of discernment, but selecting who we listen to, who we trust and respect, and taking our own measure of reality is very important, especially when we are giving away our own authority over to another. I invite our children and youth to come to Sunday school, where we will continue our discussion on authority, and I trust that you all will continue the conversation in here as well.
In this present moment, we come in a willingness to open ourselves in the care and concern that we have for one another. We are reminded that in times of difficulty, we have this community to share our lives' joys and sorrows. Today, we hold space for our young adult coming-of-agers, ninth grade coming-of-agers on their Boston pilgrimage. May their journey be filled with learning, reflection, and a deeper sense of who they are becoming. We hold space for those in our community who are recovering from illness, in hospitals, on hospice, or facing new and ongoing health challenges, including Justin Allen and family. May they be surrounded by care and comfort. We hold space for all of those who are traveling on vacation, spring break. We're just holding them. We hold space for celebration for those marking birthdays, anniversaries, or another life event or milestone, including our former intern minister, Corey Lovell, and his wife, Alexis, on the birth of their daughter, Zuzu. Let us take a moment to breathe and arrive together. We come from many paths, many stories. Some of us trust Scripture. Some trust experience. Some trust the quiet pull of compassion within. In a world where many claim certainty, may we remember something simple. No one person, no pulpit, no institution holds the whole truth. So may we practice humility when we speak and curiosity when we listen. When religion burdens people, may we stand beside those pushed aside. When belief divides, may we remember that love is larger than doctrine. And may whatever influence we carry come not from titles or certainty, but from lives shaped by kindness and justice. We let our breath now anchor us as we enter the silence together. Our reading today is from the Kalama Sutta, Buddhist reading. Do not go by reports, by traditions, or by hearsay. Do not go by what is written in scriptures, nor by logic alone, nor by teachers whom you respect. But when you know for yourselves that something is harmful, that it leads to suffering, and that wise people would reject it, then you should abandon it. And when you know for yourselves that something is compassionate, that it leads to well-being, and that wise people would praise it, then you should embrace it and live by it. Here ends our reading.
One power, one power, one power. There's one power invisible, and you see it everywhere and every day. One power indescribable, and you speak of it with every word you say. Mysterious until you know the truth, as simple as the love inside of you. Call it God, call it Spirit, call it Jesus, call it Lord, call it Buddha, Baha'u'llah, angels' wings or heaven's door. But whatever name you give it, It's all one power, can't you see? It's the power of the love in you and me. One power, one power, one power. Ooh. We speak so many languages, have different clothing, different colors, different names. But different is only dangerous when we forget that in the heart we're all the same. We'll remember once we close our eyes to see that such distances were never meant to be. Call it God, call it Spirit, call it Jesus, call it Lord, call it Buddha, Baha'u'llah, Hashem, or heaven's door. It's Muhammad, it's your mind, it's your soul, it's your sign. It's the universe, it's music, Mother Earth or Father Time. But whatever name you give it, it's all one power, can't you see? Whatever name you give it, it's the very air we breathe. It's the power of the love in you and me. One power, sing it with me. One power, one power. Oh, one more, once again. One power, one power, one power. Oh, it's the power of the love that lives forever in you and me. It's the power of the love in you and me. The love in you and me.
Thank you, thank you. I'm trying out some new glasses. They're bifocals, and so they don't work with that little one back there, so I'm using my computer. Getting used to it. A few days ago, something unusual happened inside the U.S. military. Over 200 formal complaints had been filed, not about strategy or equipment, but about theology. According to reports, some commanders were telling troops that the war with Iran was part of God's plan, even invoking the book of Revelation and Armageddon. And the complaints didn't come from outsiders. They came from soldiers themselves, Christians, Jews, Muslims, and others who said something felt wrong when a war briefing began to sound apocalyptic. That instinct, the one that says something's wrong here, most of us know it. I certainly do. Years ago, I remember getting a call early in the morning, I think it was like 5 in the morning, from somebody who thought they were a friend of mine, but they said that God told me to tell you you're going to die soon if you don't come back to Jesus. Yes. I was like, well, I didn't know I left Jesus. I didn't know Jesus left me. Just saying. But I digress. But soldiers already know the cost of war, their safety, their conscience, and sometimes their lives. But when leaders call it God's plan, the question stops being, is this wise or is this just? And it becomes, who are you to argue with God? And sometimes the bravest thing a person can do is what that child does in this morning's story for all ages. Name the truth out loud. The emperor is naked, y'all. That's the question in front of us this morning. On whose authority does anyone get to tell you what their God thinks? Now, there's a difference between authority, power, and influence, and we probably should talk about it. Influence invites. Think of it this way. Influence invites. Power compels. Authority does something more complex. It claims the right to compel. For an example, a friend influences you to volunteer for one of the many groups that we have here at the church. An employer can use power to require that you work some overtime. But a pastor who says, God told me you must do this, is claiming authority and implying that by you refusing, it's not just disagreement, it's about you being disobedient to God. And when authority cloaks itself in God language, questions can feel forbidden. In that type of system, the question itself is the offense. And you heard it in our reading this morning. The Buddha told the Kalamas, do not go by tradition, by scripture, or by authority of teachers. Test it by what it produces in you. Freedom or fear. And that same spirit of holy skepticism shows up in our tradition too. But I want to talk a little bit, I know this is the point, but I do want to talk a little bit about Jesus. If you think about Jesus, he was a pretty cool dude. He was. He lived in direct tension with authority. He lived at the intersection of two kinds of power, religious and political, and both of them wanted him to shut up. They wanted him quiet. Think about what he actually did, folks. He fed the hungry, he touched the leper, sat with tax collectors and sinners, said the last would be first. And we bring this story here because this is a room that can hear it clearly, without fear, without obligation. It's just the message. This room can hear the message that Jesus' entire message and ministry centered people whom power had pushed to the margins. And that made him dangerous. Not to the poor and the common folk, but to the powerful. That message was so threatening that religious and political authorities conspired together to have him executed. The priest handed him over. The empire drove the nails. Not because he raised an army, but because he raised a question that power could not tolerate. And that question, what if the people you've been oppressing are the ones God's trying to lift? And that question echoed through every gathering he entered. And perhaps it echoes still. Jesus was a compassionate soul, and that compassion was real. And so is the harm that many do in his name. Faith has shaped human lives in beautiful ways, and I'll give that. But sometimes it has harmed them. Religion has built hospitals, but religion has also burned people alive. Religion has marched for civil rights, and religion has justified chains. This isn't just happening here in our state, but from Tulsa to Toronto to Nairobi to Nepal, religion is being recruited by power. Sacred texts bent to justify nationalism. Dissent reframed as betrayal of quote-unquote God. But your body knows the difference. Our bodies knows the difference between religion that steadies the vulnerable and religion that tries to control them. Many of us were not just taught by religion. We were trained by it, trained to doubt ourselves, distrust our instincts, and obey even when something felt off, even when something felt wrong. And that contradiction doesn't live only in history books. It lives in our body. In the bodies, the very bodies of people sitting in this room today. So, dear ones, before we talk about theology, let's talk about the body. Because religious authority doesn't just shape beliefs, it shapes nervous systems. Religious trauma is the damage done when fear-based theology rewires your nervous system. Self-trust is severed. The eternal compass is replaced by compliance. Authority edits your thoughts before you can even speak them. That's the wound. That's the wound, my friends. And your body remembers. It remembers the sermons that shamed you, the altar calls that cornered you, the moment you were told the deity was disappointed in you. The tightening in your chest, the heat in your face, the way your stomach churned, the way you learned to sit still and nod even when something felt wrong. The way you stopped asking questions because your pulse sped up when you did. But here's what no one told you. Your body figured out theology long before your mind ever did. I'll say that again. Your body figured out theology before your mind ever did. Yeah. And that tightening in your chest was your conscience, speaking a language no one taught you to hear. You see, my friends, authority, toxic authority, gets under your skin. It teaches your nervous system that curiosity is dangerous, that disagreement is rebellion, and being authentic might get you exiled, canceled. And once that wiring sets in, you don't just change your theology, you carry it in your shoulders, in your breath, in the way you brace when someone says, the Bible says. And I see people here with light shoulders. But there are people who cannot hear the name of Jesus without their chest tightening, without them starting to itch. People who cannot walk into a church building without their body going on alert. Not because they hate faith, but because authority once used faith against them. But pure authority heals. It does the very opposite. It lowers your shoulders, it steadies your breathing, it makes space in your chest instead of tightening it. But not all authority works that way, I'll just tell you that. Just this week, a pastor went viral for telling his congregation to bring in their tax returns so he could review them. He said, I'm going to put a stop to some of y'all playing in my face during tithes and offerings. Now, you can laugh, but that was Bible. But it was meant to sting. And it turned every person in that sanctuary into a suspect, a thief, someone who owes God through the pastor. Think about that. That's not stewardship. It sounds like surveillance to me. That kind of authority doesn't just hurt feelings, it fractures trust and disconnects people from their own moral compass. And it teaches you not to trust anyone who holds authority, because the ones that's supposed to protect you use their power to control you. Now, right here in this church, I currently lead a support group for people recovering from religious wounds. That needs a support group. The stories that come into that space are not small. People shamed, controlled, or spiritually manipulated in the name of God. About 15 years ago, a man came to see me. I never will forget this. He was around 82 years old, from another church across town, and he had spent his entire life trying to reconcile who he was with his religion, a religion that told him who he was allowed to be. He was gay, and he was terrified, he said, of hell. Now, he could prosecute himself with scripture better than I could ever defend him. He knew the Bible, verse after verse, aimed inward. Not one of the verses he spoke offered mercy. That's what toxic authority does. It doesn't need to stay in the room. It trains you to do its work after it leaves. Some of you are still doing its work. Now, I realized there was nothing I could offer this man. After our second meeting, I remember sitting in my office thinking, oh, how long? 82 years, and still asking for permission to exist. My heart still aches for that man. I don't know what happened to him. I don't know if he's even alive anymore. But I know many people like him. I was one. I was one of them. Not everyone broken by religion looks broken. Some of them can look as good as I do right now. Some are standing behind podiums and pulpits. Some are preaching power on Sunday and living something else entirely Monday through Saturday, because the institution never gave them permission or a way to be whole. Authority that demands perfection while hiding its own truth is not authority, my friends, it's performance. And we got a lot of performers today. And the people trapped inside it are dying quietly. Many of you are here now because you almost died over there. And had you stayed, you probably would have. Here's the truth. Most churches won't say out loud. People don't walk away from religion because they are weak. A lot of folks walked away because staying meant lying to themselves, continuing to harm themselves. And let's be honest, most of them didn't walk away from a God per se. They walked away from people who claimed to speak for God. Now, I realize that some of you didn't grow up in that kind of church, and you don't have that type of experience. And I'm glad, and I really mean that. But the people sitting next to you may carry these wounds. Your friend who says, I'm spiritual but not religious, I'm sure you've heard that before, haven't you? But that truth may be telling you in the only language they have that religion once hurt them. So I'm spiritual, not religious. You don't have to carry the wound to help tend to it. And some of the people doing the most harm don't even know they're doing it. They're trapped inside the same system, repeating what they were taught. Now, that doesn't excuse the harm, but it should invite compassion for those still caught inside it. And let me be clear, progressive religion is not immune. Different theology does not automatically mean healthy authority. We can wound people too. We can wound people by speaking for instead of to. And I'll say that again, because Unitarians are really good at that. We can wound people by speaking for instead of listening to. By being polite instead of accountable. By confusing welcome language with actual belonging. You know, the love beyond belief. But you mad because someone sat in your favorite spot on the pew. I can see from up here. A guest come in, I'm like, oh, don't sit in Charlie's seat. Don't sit in Charlie's seat. And Charlie walks in and look at him like, why are you sitting in my seat? We can wound by avoiding conflict instead of practicing repair. By protecting institutions instead of people. If anyone has been hurt here by something said, done, or ignored, that matters. A healthy community does not deny harm, it learns from it, or it should learn from it. So here is the question for us today. When people walk into this sanctuary, does their body soften or tighten? When someone speaks about faith here, do they feel safe or suspect? Steadied or studied? Those questions matter. And so does the one you carry inside. Cherish your doubt. It's not a failure of faith. It's proof that conscience is still paying attention. Because your doubt didn't betray your faith. Oh, I love this. Y'all wait for it. Wait for it. Because your doubt didn't betray your faith. Perhaps your doubt was trying to save it. Have you ever thought of that? Maybe your doubt was trying to keep you safe. Now hear me. Sometimes the wound wasn't the sermon that shamed us. It was the silence that followed. Can you imagine all those people hearing what they're hearing in their churches and then not saying anything, even though they feel and they know it's wrong? Silence teaches it isn't safe to talk about it. This isn't safe to talk about. And that silence did something to us. It rewired our relationship with our own agency. It trained us not to follow the sacred, but to follow a voice And somewhere along the way, we stop trusting our own. But notice this, because the language has been telling us all along. It's been showing us all along. Think about the root word authority. The root word authority is author. Authority. An author is not someone who obeys the story. An author is someone who writes it. And that means you are the author of your own story, your own destiny, despite what any government, any preacher, any doctrine, or executive order tries to tell you about who you are. Yeah. Somewhere along the way, authority stopped meaning the one who creates and started meaning the one who controls. Guess what? We gave that word away. We did it. We gave it away. But baby, it's time to take it back. So when a shaming voice arises in you, and it will, ask yourself, who taught me that? Who taught me that? Where did that come from? Would compassion say that? Find someone you know who would ask you the right questions. Someone who's going to say, check in with yourself. What do you know in your bones to be true about you? That's a good friend. And when that shaming voice gets loud, I want you to breathe. Inhale, I am not afraid. And then exhale, my voice matters because it does. But hear this clearly. Authority that requires your fear to survive is already weak. Oh, I'm going to dance on that one. Any type of authority that requires your fear to survive is already weak. You don't have to be threatened by that. Real authority steadies the trembling, strengthens the conscience, and protects the smallest voice in the room. And here's what I've learned. The ones worth following aren't the ones who demand it. They're the ones who serve. So I want to do an exercise where we get to practice questioning authority. Shouldn't be any problems for Unitarians, right? So I want to practice it. All right, get ready. So I'm going to name some things, and after each, I want to hear your voice, and say it with me, on whose authority? Say that. On whose authority. Okay, we're a little weak now. So I want you to say it with more oomph, okay? On whose authority. All right, now get a little attitude with it. Okay, so when they tell you your voice doesn't matter, on whose authority. When they pass laws that say your body is a debate, on whose authority. When they use a deity's name to silence your conscience, on whose authority. When they say your love is a sin, your identity is a sickness, your questions are rebellion, on whose authority. All right. Because that authority didn't come from a God. Not any authority worth following. Because real authority doesn't begin with fear. Not the love that made you, not the life that breathes in you this very day. So let me ask you another way. And you might want to reply, my own. On whose authority do you get to tell your story? My own. On whose authority do you get to name your values? On whose authority do you love who you love, believe what you believe, and stand where you stand? On whose authority do you choose to serve? Not because someone demanded it, but because generosity lives in your bones. That's right. On our own authority. Because you are the author, you hold the pen, and no government, no doctrine, no fearful preacher gets to write your story, baby. Yes. And you walked into this room carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders, the weight that keeps trying to tell you who you are, but you're still here. You showed up. Those online, you tuned in, and that right there is an act of authority. So when you walk out of here today, I don't need you to have all the answers. I don't need you to have a plan. I just need you to know one thing. You have authority. Not because someone gave it to you, because it was already yours. And the way you carry it with humility, with service, with courage, with love, that is the sermon the world needs right now. Not the one preached from a pulpit, the one you live. Think about those 200 soldiers who filed complaints. They didn't have a pulpit, they had a form. And they filled it out. Not because someone gave them permission, but because their conscience wouldn't let them stay quiet. That's authority, the quiet, stubborn kind. So carry it well, beloved. Carry it gently. Carry it fiercely when you must. And may the authority you wield today, tomorrow, and every day after leave every soul you touch stronger than when you found them. On whose authority? Indeed. So be it our own. Yes. There comes a time when many of us hope the people we love will have support, community, and dignity as they grow older. And that's the work of Life Senior Services. Life Senior Services provides home and community-based programs that promote healthy aging and support family management, family caregivers through senior centers. Okay, hold on. All right, so programs, they promote programs that they have based. Life Senior Services provide homes and community-based programs that promote healthy aging and support family caregivers through senior centers, case management, and the adult day services. They help older adults remain active and independent. So today's offering is going to Life Senior Services. It's one of our traditions to give away our plate to organizations in our community that is doing the work of justice and love. So when the offering plate comes around, please give generously to Life Senior Services. Now, every Sunday is a joining Sunday. at All Souls. And if you are ready to join as a member or simply want to find out more information about membership, please join me at 12:45 today in room 203. That's upstairs, 203. Now, there's a pickleball meet up today. Meet up, pickleball. Pickleball, what did I say, pickleball? Well, what's the difference? I played once, right? There's a pickleball meetup today at 1:30 at the Courts and Commons in Bixby. Try this again. This is a fun way to practice the game, have fun with friends, and prepare for our pickleball fundraiser later in spring. Now, next Sunday is a special day. All Souls is turning, it's our birthday. I think it's our birthday? Yeah, our birthday is turning 105. Yeah, give it up. It's our birthday, our church birthday, 105. So join us as we celebrate our history and community with one service. And what time is that service? 10:30. 10:30. It's followed by birthday cake, fellowship, and fun. And after that service, if you've ever had to wonder where the children go after they leave the sanctuary, do you? Where the sponge room is or where to find Thoreau Lounge. So if you've ever been curious about our building, there's going to be a special building tour immediately after the service. And you'll be gathered in the foyer on that Sunday next week and go on that tour to learn more about what's going on and where everything is. Now, for more information on upcoming events and programming, check out your order of service or visit the All Souls website. We now gratefully receive your offering for Life Senior Services. As Lee comes forward to extinguish our chalice, I want to invite all those who joined us for the first time. Please, be a special guest in our Southern Library. We have a gift for you, and we would like to meet you and let you know about all the great things that are happening in our community. Invite the other members to go to Fellowship Hall, Emerson Hall, to fellowship and to greet and maybe visit our book table. If you have kids in our program, please go by and pick up your kids before you go to fellowship and get that coffee. And if you're online, for those who've joined us online, we're so grateful you joined us. Please remain after the service for the coffee hour conversations. So I want to say to you all, if there's anything you got out of this message today, is reclaim your authority. In many ways, you probably don't know that it's been taken, but there's so much pulling from us, pulling from you, that's taking your sense of power when it comes to you standing where you need to stand, you doing your values, trusting your values and what's true in your soul. And don't let nothing take that away. Reclaim it. So as Lee extinguishes the chalice, this day and all days, may you be the light that guides your path, the love that shapes your life, and you be the change that the world is longing for. Go, be loved, and be loving.